Hey y'all indeed, and welcome back to Night Shift with Andrea up late. I'm joined as always by my trusty sidekick, retired homicide lieutenant Brian Sanders.
Hello.
Hello. I know I've got you on double duty right now, so if you guys are
Yes.
watching on YouTube, he may look distracted for a moment, but it's at the behest of myself and our very special guest tonight. So quickly, if you are new here, this is a true crime podcast, and we typically air every Tuesday night live on YouTube and then drop every Wednesday to streaming wherever you listen to your audio podcast. Last week was a bit of a deterrent from that. We did not come on, but we are excited to be back again tonight. And we usually air, like I said, anytime between 8 p.m. and midnight on random Tuesdays. That maybe if you, I don't know, if you're good at cards, gambling, maybe you might land on the right date that we're in here. But so tonight we're taking it back, and while Night Shift usually covers cases, quite frankly, I think if you are a listener, you'll agree that mainly were either unsolved or unresolved cases. And tonight, for all intents and purposes, is a murder that took place many, many years ago. And there is the generalized theory or acceptance of what happened. And then, as with a lot of these cases, we've got a lot of whispers of potentially other things going on. So is this an off-putting tragic occurrence in a kind of shady motel many years ago that just kind of happened and people can't quite grasp the fact that someone of this stature could have had something like this happen? Or is it in fact much bigger than that, with a lot more secret hands playing? That's just the question at hand. And to talk to us about it is a good buddy of ours. I think we've discussed doing a show together now for maybe, I'll ask him when he comes on, maybe 2-3 years. And so we're finally doing it. He is a fellow podcaster. I'll let him tell you all about it. His name is Bosco, and he is with Forever Road Podcast. What's up, Bosco?
What's going on, brothers and sisters?
Welcome to Night Shift, finally.
Glad to be here. Finally.
Go
ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I feel like you're my brother from a different mother, Bosco. We've known each other long enough, and so it feels nice having you share the screen with us tonight.
What has it been? A couple years now.
3, yeah. Well, welcome. Do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your podcast before we get into the show? And toward the end, obviously, we'll entertain the chats real quick to you guys if you might be new here. Like I said, this is a live YouTube show, so we do engage in the chats, but we try to get through the story first and then really involve that toward the end there and just kind of let loose and sit back and have a nice little conversation with anyone in the chat. So you're free to join. All you have to do is have a YouTube account. You sign up with the email that was assigned to you at birth. It costs not a thing. We refuse to make a dime clearly on this podcast. So you just sign up, get into YouTube, log in there, and you can join the chats with our buddies here. You can ask any questions you want, and we plan to have a good time. So in saying that to you, this is Bosco, and he also has a podcast. So tell us a little bit about it.
Forever Road Podcast is, I started out being half automotive, half music, but I started kind of making a turn more towards the music based. And I can tell you what I don't cover better than I can what I do. You know, a lot of the newer stuff, a lot of alternative grunge and pop music, things like that. You know, a lot of rhythm. I cover, basically rhythm and blues, soul, blues.
Do you want to tell, for anyone unfamiliar, do you want to explain the name of your podcast to anyone who may not understand why it's named that?
So y'all may see the sign behind me. It says The Road Goes On Forever. Well, I'm a heavy, for those of you who don't know, I'm a very heavy Allman Brothers Band fanatic. Maybe I was once told I was obsessed, but whatever. And I was playing around with the name of my podcast, and I kind of came around playing around with that title itself. And I reached out to the brothers, to the Allman Brothers Museum, and then they reached out to the brothers' manager. I got the blessing and all that. I was initially going to name it that. But I kept playing around with the words, kept playing around with it, and I came up with Forever Road, and it just kind of boom. And it's a music history and culture podcast, and
Love it.
I like doing deep dives in it, even every day, posting a different song of the day. Something will just come to me. I'll look into what it's about, how it came about, tell the history on it.
Perfect.
And Yeah.
Yeah. So he's gotten into doing almost every day. He'll do a song of the day. So if you guys don't follow Bosco, you can on Instagram at Forever Road Podcast, or on YouTube, you can also follow him. And then you can see him walking around talking about music, encouraging you to think about things and ask you questions about your thoughts on music. And I think that's a wonderful segue into the show tonight, because I think that this show deals with, let's say, the civil rights movements of the 60s. It deals with music across all genres. It deals with some really heavy hitters in the music industry around that time. And one of the things, regardless of your thoughts on what happened that night or how things went down, I think that the common theme is that music, music spans all borders, all nations, all religions, all people, all colors, all, so music is one thing that can do that. And so, in saying that, I think we should get kicked off. How about you? How you doing over there?
I'm good. I'm scrambling around a little bit, but yeah. I'm good now. I'm also having to toggle a little bit on the audio stuff on my end. So of course, y'all bear with me.
To me, the idea was to bring our wonderful retired homicide detective right here, along with the ride, because he can kind of look at things from his perspective and go,
for sure,
something big. We can get into it. Sorry.
No, you're exactly right. And I usually try to lead with that myself. So thanks for reminding everybody of that. He's a great expert to go to. So this is a little different than most of the cases we cover, Bosco, because I'm going to let you kind of carry the weight of a lot of it. I'm going to kind of go over a little bit. This is going to be the death of Sam Cooke, you guys. I'm trying to not bury the lead here, but so I'm going to go over a little bit of his life growing up, just a little bit. I will say he was quite a tomcat. Okay. So take that for what it's worth, but we're not going to go over every single relationship and all of this and that. We're going to kind of touch on the high points there. And this is not a case that required research on my end the way a lot of the cases that we cover do. So it's kind of, for me, a little bit of an enjoyable week in that sense, to kind of read about history and then just kind of spitball some theories here. So Sam Cooke was born January 22nd of 1931. He was actually born in Mississippi, but when he was, I believe, 2, his family moved to an area in Chicago. He was actually born Samuel Cooke, Cooke. I think that if you are familiar with him now, you will know the spelling of his name is Cooke. And he didn't change that until a couple of decades later for kind of a specific reason that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So he was the 5th of 8 children. His father was a preacher, a Baptist minister. And he had, like I said, he was the 5th of 8 children. So he had multiple siblings. He landed almost kind of in the middle there. And their family was a loving family by all accounts. Homework was done, grades were checked. Everybody kind of fell in line, and these kids behaved and had a pretty tight-knit family. So like I said, they moved to Chicago in the early 30s. I think Sam was around 2 years old, and he went to Doolittle Elementary. He eventually went to high school at Wendell Phillips Academy. And so he started off his singing I would play it right now, and I really don't care that much about YouTube. That's not where we really get any of our traction. It's usually Spotify or iTunes. But if we do start playing his stuff, we'll get... Well, actually, we probably won't get dinged because we don't make money on it. So maybe we could. But either way, if you haven't listened to Sam Cooke, if you have found yourself under a rock at some point in your life, crawl on out and just put it on in the background while we're talking, because he's got some of the best music out there. So he starts this singing career as a young child. And so we do hear this, I think, historically, especially a lot of the nowadays older, particularly Southern Black musicians often got their roots in gospel. Separately, Elvis definitely was one of the more famous that did. Whitney Houston did. We got, so a lot of these folks from all over, but again, particularly in the South, kind of got the roots there. Again, he was from Mississippi, but moved to Chicago. So he started singing in the choir of his father's church, and he and his brothers and sisters formed a singing group called, do you know what his siblings group was called?
No.
Okay, it's going to be a reach, but it was actually called the Singing Children.
Oh,
okay. And so the Singing Children sang at the church and sang around town, and people kind of knew it. It worked, right?
What do we name this thing? How about the Singing Kids?
Done.
The Singing Children.
The Singing
that
Children.
Sounds better.
That's more proper. Yeah. So he was in the Singing Children, and he was around 6 years old at that time. And so then really at that point, he just took off. I mean, so as a teenager, a young adult, he never actually he wasn't very old when he passed away. So we don't sadly have much more of his life to go in. But from 6 in that choir until the time of his death, he exploded like a rocket on the music scene and amongst civil rights groups and these kinds of things. So he became friends when he was a teenager. He was about 14 and joined a group. He was the lead singer of the Highway QCs. And here he became friends with his neighbor, Lou Rawls, who was in a different gospel group at the time. Yeah. And I heard you make a noise, Brian, and you guys know Brian loves his music just as well. And so if you have any background in listening to, you'll definitely catch names that you recognize throughout this show tonight. So in 1950, he would only been, I believe, around 17 at this time. He replaced a gospel singer as lead singer of his gospel group, the Soul Stirrers. So the Soul Stirrers became quite a big group for Sam. So they had a song called Jesus Gave Me Water. This was still in his gospel days. Okay. They recorded Peace in the Valley. So they covered existing gospel songs, and then they wrote some of their own as well during this time in his band, the Soul Stirrers. So this is about the time that like they talk about him kind of spanning the gap. If you want, I mean, if you think about what we're talking about, it's like 1950. Okay. So we have like picture back then. So we've got the segregation of most places. It's a very different look in that sense. So even when you go to a show, I do believe Sam was kind of known as, especially as he got older, I'm not sure about at 17, but as he got older, he was very conscientious of like not wanting to play segregated halls, if that was an option. And then eventually he became big enough that he could set his own rules, so he didn't have to play in segregated spaces and such. And so it's kind of like colloquially talked about that in his teenage years singing gospel. This is around the time when like girls would start rushing the stage to him. So as I said earlier on that he was kind of a tomcat, he came to it naturally because when he was just, a young teenager, this was going on. And so these girls are like throwing themselves and he's just trying to sing Peace in the Valley. He's singing gospel on stage at 17.
Well, so they would also say that the fellas would kind of rush the stage as well and be like just enamored at how
exactly.
Dude had a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it sounds like silk. I mean, it's some of the best music in that variety, I think, for sure. What say you, Brownlee?
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Man, my dad played the records growing up. A lot of Sam Cooke.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where I didn't know Sam Cooke did a cover of "Summertime."
Ooh,
which everybody kind of does a cover of "Summertime." My favorite is Billy Stewart. Another record my dad played a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, a lot of Sam Cooke played, and my mom too. My mom dug Sam Cooke.
When I did my deep dive on this, when I brought it to y'all's attention, it was, matter of fact, I just hit my XM radio thing and just hit, whatever soul station I think. And that was with the first song. And I was like, oh, that's right. And then I reached out to y'all and said, we got to do this. We got to do this. So it was "Summertime" that what kicked the whole thing off.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great song anyway.
Sorry.
No, don't be. So if we're just looking at stats, he had top 40 hits just between 57 and 64. So he was, they were just coming on out. And then, of course, we'll get to it. But after his death, there were 3 more hits and some that led up right until his death happened. And then, of course, they were not released until after the fact. So if you weren't aware, so You Send Me, A Change Is Gonna Come. That would be another one that comes about after his death. Cupid, are you kidding right now? I remember Valentine's dances in elementary school, and they would play this, and I would wear a white button-down shirt and a red skirt with tights and Sam and Libby shoes. Where are my Sam and Libby girls? Y'all remember this? Okay. And they would play Cupid. We got Chain Gang. We got Wonderful World, Another Saturday Night, Twisting the Night Away. You name it, Sam Cooke either wrote it or covered it. So he became known eventually, though, to really be more concerned not more concerned, but just as concerned, not with his vocals and the songs he was putting out, but with the business idea of the music. So I guess he was known to talk to friends and younger family members about the fact that, like, essentially, so what, I work, and I get a paycheck, and then I'm out of money at the end of 2 weeks, and I got to keep working and get a paycheck, and I'm out of money. And so they're like, well, what are you going to do? And he's like, oh, I'm going to write my songs. Like, and so he really attended to the business piece of the music. He didn't just go out there and blow all his money and, not be super careful with it and just enjoy being a star. He was really careful about saving it and kind of taking care of those around him. So I could sit here and just go down. I'm not going to bore you with a list of his records. I think it would do you a lot more service to actually just listen to him, listen to his hits. You don't need me to read them off. But in the middle of all of this that I'm telling you about professionally, personally speaking, he had a lot going on. So he was married only twice.
Hang on. One thing that impressed me was he had come on the Dick Clark show the very first time, and they were talking about how great he was and all that, and Dick Clark's in there talking. Now everybody that's older than 35, maybe you probably remember Dick Clark. Maybe, I don't know, when did he pass away? 2012.
Yeah, ask his maid, his housekeeper. Maybe we should do that one on the show. But yeah, it's been a few years ago. So, that was weird, but.
So he's on the Dick Clark show way back in the day, obviously, and he tells him, he said, "Yeah, this is great, but the next time I come here, I'm not going to be on stage. I'm going to be backstage handling the business." I think he was one of the very first black artists that gained control of his money in that. And then there was another one. I'm wanting to say it was James Brown. I could be wrong, but I'm wanting to say it was James Brown because I think he told him. But anyway, that was just one of those things on the business side that he, being back then in that time period
and wanting to be in control, like you said, of his own music. He said, I will be the one, like, this is my music. Like, I own the music that I sing and the music that I write.
Right.
And sadly, that's going to be another, that's going to go into our theory portion at the end of the show as to what some people may consider to be a problem when it gets into Alan Klein and RCA and, who's in control of his music and his money, essentially. So he was married a couple of times. And if I say he was only married twice, it's because when you really look at the litany of women and children that are kind of in the wake of Sam Cooke, you might think he'd been married more than a couple times. So he got married first to a lady named Dolores Milligan Cooke. Her stage name was Dee Dee Mohawk. And they were married for 4 or 5 years. Sadly, she was killed soon after they divorced in an automobile accident. But he did pay for her expenses when she died and these kinds of things. So he also then had another lady. Hang on, let me get my little notes. Let me get my notes straight.
Go ahead. Dee Dee Mohawk. There goes the idea for my second stage name.
I mean, man, I think you'd do well by that, Bosco. You could be BB Mohawk. In 1958, he married his second wife, Barbara Campbell. So Barbara is going to be kind of a name that you're going to hear consistently. Even so, they get married, plot twist, that doesn't work out, but she is at the funeral and she has ties into some things, not his death, but if you wanted to do more of a dive into his personal life and some of those, I was going to say affairs, just as a term, but no pun intended, there was a lot going on there. And so Barbara is going to be the wife that kind of you're going to hear the mainstay of. And so he and Barbara have 3 children. So they were married in 58. Well, in 53 is when their first child was born. Okay. So do some of this math. So when Sam was actually 21 years old, he impregnated 3 different women unintentionally. So within just weeks amount of time. So his first 3 children were born around when he was 21, 22, within weeks of each other. So then he went on to, I believe, have 3 other children, not with anyone that he was married with. I think 2 of those women stayed. 2 of those women stayed anonymous, I think, over the years. It was proven that their children were his children, but they didn't necessarily seek spotlight or anything like that. There was like a settlement, outside of court, a lump sum of cash toward one of the mothers. But, I said he was a tomcat out there. So he actually, in 1958, Sam himself was involved in a car crash, and he was headed to Mississippi. And so he had a chauffeur that sadly was killed, but he had his guitarist Cliff White and Lou Rawls were also with him and hospitalized from that event. So he and his wife, Barbara, real quick going back, because some people will say this stemmed towards some of the maybe increased alcohol intake, like some different personality changes between himself and or Barbara, because when their son was 18 months old, out of their 3 children, they had this little boy, Vincent, who was 18 months old, when sadly he fell in the family pool and drowned. Now, there's a couple of different accounts of this. Mom, Barbara, says that she had just run inside for a moment and she had left little baby with his sister. I believe her name was Tracy, if I'm not mistaken. But the sister was, I think, 3 years old at this time. So mom says she leaves him with sister and runs into the house for a second and comes out immediately within a minute or two, finds the child in the pool. Paramedics get there. They try to resuscitate to no avail. Later, there are reports that Barbara was potentially in the bedroom with Bobby Womack, which we will get into that a little bit later at that time. And then we also have accounts that actually Sam Cooke had been there, had to leave to do some things. Like he had gone for a swim and put the cover back on the pool, but left and the baby. So we don't, nothing nefarious happened. I think that's widely accepted. It could have been a negligent situation, all accidental, of course, but that's what happened. So everybody's kind of kicking the can on what happened or blaming themselves or blaming someone else. So just so you know, a little background there, to the point that up until Sam's death years later, his family and friends will say, as difficult and horrible as a tragedy that was, it wasn't really in Sam's demeanor to talk candidly about it. Instead, he would just kind of bottle it up and sometimes kind of explode over it or be super upset, of course. But there wasn't really a lot of discussing it. In fact, I think that they said he refused to discuss it very much. So we're just going to move on forward. I think it's notable to remark on the fact that when we speak on him in the civil rights movement, he quickly got in good graces with Cassius Clay, right? Muhammad Ali. He was friends with Malcolm X. Leading up to his death, he was actually slated to be in an event with MLK, with Martin Luther King Jr., and his death occurred shortly before that was able to take place. Let me just show you real quick before we get to the night of his death, and I'll show you a few pictures in case you are not familiar. So here's a picture. There's Sam. Here he is there. It's a great shot. Let's see here. I don't want to give anything away, so I don't want to show other photos yet. But that gives you an idea of who we're talking about in case you weren't aware of who he is. All right, so moving forward, the night of his death. So this would be December 11th, 1964. Okay, so he was out. Sam was out with a couple of friends, and they were at a restaurant, like an Italian restaurant, and they were going to leave from there to go to, was it PJ's? Is that right, Bosco? Do you remember?
Yes, it was.
PJ's, right?
Yeah, sounds right.
I think so. And so they were leaving this Italian restaurant and we're going to go kind of like continue the night elsewhere. And so while they're at this restaurant, though, before they can leave, he and his 2 like male acquaintances, it's like business and pleasure, right? Like, so before they can head off to the next place, Sam finds himself at the bar with a lady named Lisa Boyer. Okay. I've got a photo, I believe. Again, if you are just an audio listener now, you can always go on Instagram at Andrea Uplate and you can see the photos that we're talking about, or you can always listen on Spotify, by the way, where there is a video option on Spotify. So if you work somewhere where like YouTube can't be playing, you can play Spotify and still have the the video component. But that's Lisa Boyer. So Sam is there at the bar with her. His 2 business/friend acquaintances are about to leave the restaurant. He's on board to go with them. But instead, he kind of starts having some drinks and making out a little bit with Lisa. Well, so the way his friends tell it is that they left to go on to the second stop to PJ's. They thought he had already either left or that they missed him or something, but he was not with them at that point. They moved right along. So the account that we have, of course, Sam dies, right? So we don't have his version of events. So all we have now is what took place after that. And that would then be the lady he's with, Lisa, right? So her account at that point is that they left the that restaurant bar area. They get in his car. He was driving a Ferrari at the time. And the reports vary, and Bosco, speak up if you know more particularly on this, but some accounts will say that he was kind of wildly showing, like flashing his cash at the restaurant. But then when you hear that, reports vary by thousands of dollars as to how little or how much that could have been. And then some people say they didn't see that taking place at all. So I can't really corroborate whether or not he was showing his cash. There's a reason why that could potentially matter moving forward. Did you have any knowledge on that, whether or not he was kind of showing it off?
I mean, that at that point, I think in the bar, I don't think it was. I think there was the varying stories, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
He was, and then he wasn't. And I think one of his managers from the studio, him and his wife, said that that Sam got up from the table when they were sitting there talking, and he went straight over to, what's that lady's name?
Lisa.
Lisa. And that was the last time that he himself saw Sam. To her.
Okay.
Yeah,
exactly. So we have Lisa's account now. So she says that they get in the car and that she wants to go home. She said that she thought he was going to be taking her home. She was under that impression. She said that instead they keep driving and that they stopped somewhere and that place was full, but she still says that she's asking him to take her home. Okay. And so they keep driving south on 110 out in LA. Did y'all like how I said that? Like I'm all familiar with it? Not.
Right.
And so they head out there and it's over there. And so it's known, it seems like pretty much across all boards, that they were getting into like a more seedy area, a place where typically you wouldn't be carousing around if you're Sam Cooke in your Ferrari, right? So they get down there, they go to, I've got it here. It's Hacienda Motel. And so they get there, and Lisa says her account is that they start to go inside, and she had told him multiple times she wanted to go home, that she didn't want to be there. And so they go up to the room. She says that he essentially kind of forcibly gets her in the room or pulls her in the room. And once they're in there, she says that she tells him she wants to go home. She doesn't want to be there, and that she continues to tell him that. She said that he said, no, we're just going to talk. He shoves her on the bed. She'll say that he basically was trying to rip off her shirt, rip off her skirt, rip at her panties, and that she was kind of trying to thwart his efforts. But at some point, the story kind of falters, but either she went to the bathroom, he went to the bathroom, and when he was in the restroom, she says she just wanted to try to escape. She wanted to leave. So in her version of the story, she's scrounging quickly to get her clothing that has come off of her. And in doing so, inadvertently grabs his pants and some of his clothing as well. She says she's scooping it up in a hurry and runs out the door. She says that she went down and knocked on the door of the manager office down there and didn't hear anyone respond. And so she said that she kept running. That's when she ditched his clothes that were in, when she realized she had extra clothing. She threw those to the side and goes outside and around a corner to a payphone to call 911. Okay. So that's her version of events. So we have her version, and then we have the hotel manager's version. And then we also have the hotel owner's version, because she evidently was on the phone with the manager during the time this was all taking place. Okay, so the hotel manager, Brenda Franklin, Brenda, right? Why am I not?
Yeah, it's Brenda.
Franklin.
I was trying to think of it too.
Yeah, so I've got a photo of her here. I'll show you. Bertha. That's right. Bertha Franklin. So she says that, so we've got Lisa's. So then she goes around and calls 911. So we'll stop with her account there. So now it's in the hands of Bertha. Bertha says that Sam Cooke beat on the door, demanding, like, where's that girl? Where's that girl? As though he's looking for Lisa. Bertha does or does not know. We don't know this, right? We don't know if she does or doesn't know Lisa. And so we know that she's saying he's just trying to bang down the door to get in. Eventually, he's able to, like, basically shoulder check the door, bust his way in. She says then that as he's coming upon her, all he's wearing is his suit coat, like a blazer, and one shoe, like his right shoe. So he's like just bearing it all in there. He tries to like
hanging in the breeze.
Yes, hanging in the breeze right there in that motel, Hacienda. So he tries to like bust in the door to her. She tells him to get back. Eventually she's able to take her pistol out. She's got, well, I actually showed it here.
Yep.
It was a revolver, wasn't it?
I was actually just making a note about that.
Yep.
Where did we go, people?
There's some discrepancies.
Yeah, it was a revolver.
There it is. Yeah. That teeny tiny one.
Yeah, I'd almost say that's a 22.
Well, and I wouldn't go too much off of the other thing we heard
I'm
earlier, by the way, because I've kind of discounted that now.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, so she has this gun there. No harm, no foul. I don't blame her a bit. She is the manager at a pretty shady little motel spot, right? I think it was like a $3 a night situation, something like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she says that he comes at her and then she tells him to get back. She shoots him. She says, so she got off 3 shots. One goes through Sam's chest. He stumbles back. A second shot goes into the ceiling. A third shot is evidently never recovered. And so the way that Bertha will call it is that he looked at her almost like surprised or indignant and just said, "Lady, you shot me." And so like that phrase, you'll be able to find like documentaries on YouTube. There's a song was made with that phrasing, like, "But lady, you shot me" is evidently what he looked up and said to her. And then in that moment got up again and charged at her. Now her account is that basically she beat the tar out of him. She had a broomstick. She's beating him across the face, the back of the head with the broomstick. She's clawing, she's biting at his shoulder through his sports coat, doing everything she can and is able to get away. And then she also calls 911. So we have her call to 911 and we have Lisa Boyer's call to 911. As far as we, the public, are aware, we don't know that Lisa and Bertha during this time period, at least, were ever crossed paths. Because the way Lisa says it, she kind of ran out and just to try to escape. So police get there. They find Sam lying in the manager's office. But during that time, Bertha Franklin, the manager, was on the phone with a female who was the owner of the motel, or at least that's what we're told. Right. And so, and that may be true, maybe not true, but now we have 3 different women. So the owner will corroborate what Bertha said, the manager, because she says, "I was on the phone with her. That's exactly what happened." So is that true, or is that a friend of hers that's vouching for her? We were not there. Right. So, but that's for people who either believe or disbelieve that story, at least know that we have these 3 women's accounts and 2 911 calls that were made. Police get there. They see Sam lying there. They get the accounts from the witnesses. They get in touch with Lisa Boyer. Evidently Sam's Ferrari was out front. It had been moved, like as in he had gone out. I guess the thought is that he left to try to find Lisa, like turned the car around quickly in the parking lot, got back out on second thought, ran back in to the manager to confront her to try to find Lisa. Meanwhile, we're just like ding-a-linging it in the parking lot though, because the man's not wearing pants. He's not wearing nothing. So he leaves, gets in the car and goes back in the motel. Like if what we know is true, that's what would have happened. Right. And so with all of this happening, cops get there. They find his clothing that Lisa said she dropped, and she tells them where it was. They find it. It's got a money clip in it. The money clip has $108. There was some money in the glove compartment of the car. Evidently, that's what was known to have already been there. Now, as for the accounts of whether or not Sam Cooke was flashing cash at the Italian restaurant prior, and how much that was, like, I listened to one account and they were like, I don't know, he had like 100 something, like maybe 1,000 or like maybe even like 5,000. I'm like, okay, let's just not say that. Then we don't know how much money he had, and we don't know for sure whether or not he was flashing it. Maybe he was. So his blood alcohol level upon autopsy was 0.14, or I should say, he would not autopsy, but his toxicology was 0.14. So clearly over the legal limit. But not, I mean, I think for someone who was known to, I mean, he wasn't known to be this raging alcoholic, but he was definitely known to drink and certainly kind of uptake that input after his son's death. And so I don't think this is a crazy number for him. And so then it just comes down to, do we believe that this is what happened? So the women went and they testified in court that this is what happened. This is what took place. And LAPD deemed this proper and a self-defense killing. And that was that. And there we are. Now we have people like Etta James, right? Right. If you know Etta James. So Etta James sees his open casket. His body has gone on to 2 or 3 funeral locations. Correct me if you know the answer to that, Bosco. But it starts in Chicago, which is where he was essentially from. His family was there. Back out west. And so hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people viewed his body. Now it was all open casket the whole time. We've got photos with, here's one here. We've got another one here. You can see Muhammad Ali there looking in. He's the nearest one to the casket. And so people that were friends of Sam's would say he was not rapey. Like, he wouldn't be rageful. He wouldn't be forcing himself upon women. Go ahead.
Another thing, one of his bandmates, I believe, or maybe it was his cousin, somebody was close to him, said that he had enough money to not take that girl to a motel.
Yes, but here's what I don't like about that. I'm not saying he did or didn't do that. And I won't say he did or didn't do that because I really don't. I mean, it could go either way as far as I'm concerned. But having money does not keep people from doing things that money could keep them out of. You know what I mean?
Now,
so
I'm not saying that the girl didn't talk him into, hey, honey, we'll just go over here and, you know.
I think a lot of things can be true, is what I was going to say. Like, and we'll get into all of that. But I did hear that exact account about, like, well, he had enough money that he wouldn't need to. You're not jumping ahead at all. It's a great point. Like, but because I heard the same thing, and my first thought was, get out of here with that. Like, I understand what he's saying. He's got too much money to have to take a low rate hooker to a cheap seedy motel. Well, maybe that's exactly where he wanted to take her. Maybe he didn't need everybody to know that this is what he's doing, right? Like, that one could go. Well, we know that money does not keep people from doing the things they shouldn't be doing. So that's not the thing. Now, what we do learn about Lisa later on, Lisa is the one that he took from the Italian restaurant to the Hacienda Motel. Her account is that it was essentially kidnapping and that he was forcing himself upon her. We find out later that just within a month or two, I think, of Sam's death, she was busted in a prostitution sting. And then it just comes out, like, it's widely known that she was a prostitute and doing sex work. Like, that's fine. Maybe they both knew that and she doesn't want other people to know it. I don't know. Was she hustling him for money? That's another thought. Maybe, maybe not, right? Like, and she could have been, and both things could have been true. She could have been hustling him for money, and he, around the same time, he's deciding he's going to force himself. Maybe he never did that, right? So I just think it's always great to keep an open mind here, because then we have people who say FBI, CIA, he was rising too much and had too great of a voice in the civil rights music movement, and his music, the CIA didn't want that to happen, so they offed it. I'm like, well, that seems a stretch, right? But then there's whispers about really. Alan Klein and RCA, and this is where, Bosco, I want you to give me your. I'm signing out. I want to hear what you got.
All right, my theory is where we're at. We're talking theories or just my view.
Yeah, have we described the scene well enough to understand? Okay, yes. Let's hear what you got.
Okay. Now, my view, and I'll let you take the details of the. I mean, how far you want to go with it, BC? Do you want to talk about the body and the scene and all that? What your perspective is, or what do you think?
Oh, that's what I didn't touch on. I'm sorry. That when Etta James saw his body, she'll say it looked like his head was almost separate from his neck. They say his nose was smashed. They say his hands. I say they, and I'm talking about his friends and family that viewed him in the casket. Okay. And they're saying that his hands were all broken up. This is a tough one because we don't have these photos. Like we haven't seen it. A dead body can look pretty rough. And by the lady's account, whether you believe her or not, Bertha, she says she beat the fire out of him. I mean, she says she's hitting him with the broom. She's doing whatever. Now, that wouldn't cause his hands to necessarily be so gnarled, but we don't know what happened from the time he got there till he left. So, I don't know.
Well, my thing go ahead.
Sorry, I missed that part.
He just said my thing. He didn't say.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, you want me to say what I think so far?
I think he was just asking, like, what's your thought on the way, like, his body was versus what they say happened?
Yeah. So if she says that she struck him in the face with a broom handle multiple times, and that broom broke, yeah, and that she shot him, and there's a pistol on scene, and the calibers match up, and all of that, then on the surface that sounds credible. That sounds like it would happen that way, or could happen that way.
Sure.
You would want to ask her, hey, if you've got a loaded revolver and you're shooting at this guy, why didn't you just keep shooting? Or why did you stop? If you did stop, if you shoot 3 times and you've got 6 rounds in the cylinder, why do you stop at 3 rounds and then go to a broom? Now, someone can explain that very easily. They can say,
I only had 3.
I shot it first. Yeah, I only had 3 rounds and the weapon was empty. Or I fired three times. It wouldn't fire anymore. I panicked. I grabbed a broom. He got back up, and I hit him with the broom multiple times until he stopped.
There wasn't actually a discrepancy on the.
Go ahead, Buster.
Sorry. There was actually, you said caliber match. There was actually a discrepancy on the weapon that was there versus the caliber of ammo that they got at autopsy from. I think one was a 22 reported, and one was
a 30 caliber.
There was a 32 or some odd.
Yeah. So everything I keep seeing that is like conflicting for me is that the verbiage is a little off to where I can't definitively, like, I hear like, oh, he was shot with a this, but she was registered to have this. Okay, that's fine. I don't care what she was registered. What did she have there that day? So was the gun that was there that day the one unregistered to her? Maybe is that the one that would match up with what was at it? You know what I'm saying? Like, because everything just says, oh, she was registered to have this. Well, we find out later that Bertha, is actually she was no stranger to crime herself, in the sense that she had been. It's a little questionable on how former to present she was as being the role of a madam for essentially these women, right? Like a brothel, like for these prostitutes. So that's where the questions start coming in. Were she and Lisa working hand in hand? Did the local prostitutes know that Bertha, would turn a cheek while they brought these men in, and maybe they hustled them, maybe they didn't. But when it comes back to the caliber of the weapon, I just keep seeing the verbiage of Bertha was registered to have this particular weapon, but this is what was in his body. Well, all of that can still be true, and the weapon she had there was not registered to her. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I don't know.
What's your whole take on it, BC?
Yeah, the terminology, when people talk about the registered firearms and all that, back then, I mean, most people probably were not doing anything like that. Now, in LA, it may be one you can register with the sheriff in case it gets stolen or something. It's because back then
she was a madam. Like, I'm not too worried about her legal status with the weapon.
Yeah, right? No, but that's what I'm saying. Is like if somehow down this path of years and years, someone has said, hey, there was a firearm registered to her of a whatever 32, but it was a 22 round or a 22 caliber pistol recovered that day or whatever, like, That's what I mean. Like,
Or hell, that could have just lived in the desk drawer.
Yeah, all I'm interested in is the firearm that was there that she said, hey, this is the weapon I used and shot him. Okay, cool. Pop the cylinder. You document how many rounds are in there, especially back in 64. You're not doing DNA stuff. You pop the cylinder. You count the live rounds. You count any spent shell casings, and then you recover the projectiles from the body during the autopsy. You weigh it out, and then you go, yeah, it's 22 caliber pistol. All that matches up, at least on the surface. I mean, yeah.
And that's where people get frustrated. People who, at that time, at least feel like they'll say the investigation was shoddy or whatever. It's like, this is kind of one where, like you said, like when you've got 3 or 4 witnesses, or excuse me, 3. So we have we know now she was a prostitute, but she was there with him claiming to be the victim. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. The hotel manager and the hotel owner that was supposed to have been on the phone with the hotel manager. We have 3 separate accounts of women who all basically say the same thing. So they could be lying. Of course they could be lying. We don't know that. But in saying that, on the surface, the things do add up, right? Like, so when this is one where we've covered enough cases where I'm like, I'm sorry, that was a negligent investigation. Like, they just didn't come close to doing the bare minimum. This one, it sounds like, well, it could be, right? It could add up. It doesn't necessarily scream negligence when you see that, unless there's stuff that we're not privy to. But if he's laying there and what she says makes sense to how his body is presenting, like we said, and old girl that called 911 is saying, oh, his clothes were over there. Like, I quickly got dressed. And, like, if it's all adding up and you have multiple witnesses and it's all adding up, it makes sense that the investigation led them to where it did, right? Now, that doesn't mean that there wasn't something else going on. Or that when old girl decided to come in and hustle him in the room, maybe 2 of her cronies are already in that room ready to beat the fire out of him. There's reports that maybe he was actually killed elsewhere and then moved there, in which case you have to have all these other women on board, by the way. So, and maybe they were, I think that we always have to be careful and stand back and say, okay, who does this behoove? Like, who is going to benefit from whatever this was, if it was a cover up or if it was like some other event? Who's going to benefit from this, and how many people have to be on board for this to work? And then is it likely that they're all going to be quiet? And then when we kind of can't talk about one without talking about the other. So if we're talking about civil rights and it being like, a really bad time for people of color in LA and whatever, then you're looking at co-conspirators that are all Black, Asian, females. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't like white men or, what I think would be the idea of the people on board with covering it all up. So it's, it's tough.
To me, I think I'm personally, I'm leaning more towards, well, there's a couple different avenues I can go down here. One, he got involved with a girl. She figured out who he was. She's going to try to sweet talk him into this little cheap hotels that she runs out of, right? Mm-hmm. To me, she goes to the manager's office. I think that her and the manager and the owner, they all kind of knew each other. Now,
I agree. I think that's not far reaching. Yeah.
I mean, think about the seedy part of town, normal women.
When their jobs. I mean, it would make sense. Yeah.
If she wasn't involved in what she was involved with, she wasn't involved with prostitution. She wouldn't be as comfortable going to that hotel, but like I said, I think she figured out who he was. She knew he had money, and she's that was one avenue. And, after everything went down, they were kind of like, okay, this is what happened. There was another theory, or another avenue that I was thinking of where, Sam was trying to get away from his manager and do his own thing. And they pretty much, it was a setup. He sent the girl in there to get his attention because he knew how Sam was. And it kind of went downhill from there, the whole robbery and all. And honestly, the autopsy, that was what everybody said, the witness statements, and even Etta James, like what she said, the bruises on his hands, the bruises on his knee. There was one, somebody said there was a big, on his knee. Matter of fact, I saw one photo from They didn't show his face or anything, but they showed it was a really good shot where you can actually see a big bruise on his knee. And I know she's beating him over, but after you shot him, then you start beating him over the head, with the broomstick. Now, granted, the bruises on the hands could have come for his self-defense. Now I'm getting hit with a broomstick. I'm going to try to block
banging on the door to try to get in.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, but
and that's what I was going to say earlier was. That's what I was going to say earlier was, if she's rolling him, if she lured him there purely for a robbery, it still happens decades later. It's pretty much the same technique.
That's what I'm doing now.
Some woman,
really,
some woman lures a guy into a hotel room, and in a minute he either passes out or whatever, or she gets a chance, steals his money, or her boyfriend or a friend comes in, knocks him over the head, steals his money. If she rolled him and took his pants and his money and ran out, which would make sense because now he can't chase her, then she's good, because you got to think, if she grabs all this stuff in one hand, I grabbed all his clothes, I guess I grabbed his back. That means she's running down the sidewalk or whatever nude, and at some point she has to stop.
So she says her account to that is that she ran immediately out of the room, knocked on the manager's office, didn't hear anything, ducked around a corner, got like in a alley, like a little area, a dark area, threw her clothes on, dumped his, ran out to the payphone. That's how she describes it to have been.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. And then he pursues.
And then he pursues.
Yeah.
So, and that could go either way. So my point there, Bosco, I'm not sure what your thought is here. Again, this is all if it's happening the way we know of it to have happened, right? Or the way the story has been given to all of us. But even if, let's say she's hustling him, right? Then he comes out of the bathroom. She's not there. His pants aren't there. He realizes quickly his money's not there. Okay. And he is pissed, and he just runs to find her. He doesn't care about getting a sheet. He doesn't actually care where he is, because he knows he's in like a crap hole part of town where he doesn't know anybody anyway. And he runs down. I guess he thought to put on the one shoe. Who knows? Maybe the other one had just whatever. And so he's like Cinderella. Cinderella ding dong. I'm sorry, but like just running through the back, and then goes to the manager's office,
dingling it through the parking lot,
goes straight back out, gets in the car, gets back out of the car. But my point with that is, he's got this much money. He doesn't want to be. I get it. No one wants to be had. You don't want to be robbed. But is he going to do this naked, chasing after this woman in a parking lot in his car, back into not that I ran to my car nude and just drove home. I'm going to actually get back out. I'm so enraged that I'm going to get back out. I'm just saying you can play it either way, because that's not a normal. Most dudes aren't just running through with the blazer and nothing else. You know what I mean? So like Winnie the Pooh in it into the lobby.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're going to just go home. Like you're friends with.
But he's also drunk.
He'd been drinking. Well, we don't know that he was drunk. We know that he was above the legal limit. He was 0.14. We don't know what that looks like for him.
True.
So it wasn't 0.27. Like it really wasn't crazy. He just legally shouldn't have been driving. But
in 0.14 to a little. I mean, he was kind of a small dude at the same time. So 0.14.
He's like 160, but I don't know. I think 0.14 for someone who has been drinking pretty regularly isn't wild. I don't think that's going to make him just all of a sudden be this crazy dude. We don't know what else he could have been doing at that time. I guess my point is, it's typically not the behavior that you would then like, I'm so angry, I am going to, they would say that he would have outbursts like about his, the dead baby or whatever. I don't know what those outbursts were. They say he wasn't ragey, but they like I was saying to Brian earlier, like Ted Bundy's essentially wife had no idea. He was the most loving, kind thing to her, right? Like, he helped raise his younger brother who had no idea. Like, people can be different people to different people. And I'm not saying that Sam Cooke was. I just mean that, like, if what we're being told is true, that paints him as ragey. That paints him as like, I'm going back in, like, come hell or high water, I'm getting that $1,000 or whatever. And really, like, you're friends with Muhammad Ali, you're friends with Malcolm X, you're friends with Aretha Franklin, and Diana Ross has like been looking at you with these lovey eyes. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're just going to just go home and like forget that chick.
Without pants, though. Now you got to go home without pants and explain why your
wife.
pants and shoe are missing. Or stop somewhere.
Wife's questionable. There. They were not, I mean, they were technically still married. It sounds like they both were kind of living, you know, just parallel lives. So yeah, maybe he doesn't want to come home. I get it, but also,
and at the same time,
it's possible to me that he could be that enraged and running around like that.
But not wanting to like beat a woman. Is just not wanting to like beat a woman, just like enraged enough to try to find his pants.
No. That's what I'm saying. Like all of it, all like complete anger.
Just seeing red.
You stole money. If that's how it played out, like you stole my money. Basically, you beat me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm gonna go jump in the shower. I mean, probably, if that's how it went down, he had to be in the shower, away from her. You know what I mean? If it's just her.
My thing was this.
Or, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, he has to kind of work on his sound stuff. So when you start to speak, he didn't hear you initially. Go ahead.
Oh, my thing was because you said shower and it kind of peaked. It popped. What I was thinking of earlier today was, you know, the part of, okay, so they get to the hotel. What happened between the time they arrive at the hotel and the time she runs out? Okay, my thing is, now he has a clean cut image up to this point. Like he is basically, like you said earlier, he is basically
raised by a preacher.
You know, all that, and then he's blurring the racial lines. He's introducing this rhythm and soul music to white people, white culture, and doing a damn good job at it. So he's got all this attention. He's a clean cut dude. He's, you know, I mean, on stage he shows up and he does TVs and all that. Yeah, he's still fighting the civil rights fight, but he's still loved, right? So he's got an image to uphold, but he takes this girl, he takes a chance, takes her on. They do the deed. This is my theory. They do the deed. She realizes this man has money in his wallet right here. While he's in the shower, she takes off. That's when he notices she's not out there anymore. She's taking off on my stuff.
Oh, I think that if she stole money from him, she knew she was doing that before they left the Italian restaurant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't once they got to that hotel room that she was like, oh, this guy. Like, that was like, if that's what she did, and I'm not saying it didn't, but if that's what she did, that was the plan. Like,
I mean,
because that was probably the game that was played often, you know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, definitely a girl goes into a nice upscale Italian restaurant or bar.
Right, to go back to the Hacienda Motel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, let me go pick up some dude that has money and I'll go over here to this restaurant where I know people go in there, business people. They have money. They're going to want to play around, extramarital or whatever. And, you know, hey, you know, she catches his eye somehow.
And I think that, like, that's what, and we didn't touch on it too much, but at the end of the day, Alan Klein was, he was with RCA. He was with, like, so remember we talked about Sam Cooke, like being, he was the bearer of his own business. Like he was like, this is my money. I write these songs. I want, you know, and he had a business plan from a very early age. I think that when you referenced Dick Clark, I think it was Dick Clark that said that Sam Cooke learned the business earlier than almost not than he should have, but like than most people did. So as a very young man, he was like, oh no, this is how I'm going to handle my catalog, my music, my business, and my money. And so soon, not too long before Sam's death, we realized that he has come to the realization that Alan Klein of RCA had changed the way the ownership, let's say, of the catalog and the way all of that would go down. And so I guess like Sam's dad was supposed to be a part of it. Alan had reworded some of the verbiage to, you know, change. So at the end of the day, Alan Klein, as far as I know, and I could be wrong here, I feel like that's still this way. Like, I'm not sure that his estate, anybody ever were able to reclaim Sam Cooke's things. Like it still stayed there. So some will speculate that Alan Klein might have had a role in Sam Cooke's death. And so I mean, there's no evidence to support this, but when people start talking about any kind of ideas of what could have gone wrong if it wasn't these women, and at the end of the day, what if it was just these women? What if she went to hustle him and he came down and, this lady was actually her madam.
Mm-hmm.
So she already knew what was happening when they walked in the door.
Mm-hmm.
Old girl has always known that in the event of something going sideways, I'm going to call and report rape.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not caught up in a theft charge and a prostitution sting. And then, and so then they get the owner of the hotel, because now she's all of a sudden of this moral high ground. So they get her on board to say hey, we need a third, we need you to corroborate this from elsewhere. You were on the phone with me. This is what you heard go down. It'd be very easy to have these three women say the same thing. It's not very often easy to get, we talk about it often. Let's say it's three men in the murder of a young woman. It's hard to get three dudes on board to say the same thing. And it's hard to get them to stay on board and kind of keep this lie going. These three women in this circumstance, I think that'd be easy as pie. That wouldn't be hard at all. And if they did actually get away with it, there's nothing to say. Now, I do have to go on to say that Lisa Boyer, the supposed victim of the aggression of Sam Cooke in this case, later goes on to, I told you, was arrested in prostitution, saying no big deal as far as I'm concerned, in the sense that yes, of course she was a prostitute. That's going to happen. But not too much longer after that, she was charged with murder of her boyfriend. I think she was convicted of that. And I think sentenced fairly minimally, but she called it self-defense and said he threw a chair at her or something. But just know that was also something that happened. So also, but it's a high-risk lifestyle. So both things could be true. I mean,
probably running out of her house with his pants.
Maybe she's the collector of pants. That's what we're going to call the
episode. The traveling pants. But my thing was, so we got Alan Klein, big name in RCA, right? My thing is, if he pays enough dudes, hey, look, we're going to have him followed. I'm tired of, we've changed all this paperwork. We've changed all the legalities of his catalog. We've got the royalty rights. We've got all the goods. I've got everything I need. So I'm done with him. Take care of him. And because I'm sure that.
Here's where I argue that, though. Here's where I argue that.
Hang on.
So go ahead. I'm so sorry.
And this is back in the 60s. So, I mean, it's not like they had Facebook to sit around on three dudes. All they had to do, I mean, it's not like they had the internet and all that to distract them. Let's go follow this dude, and then follow him wherever he's going on this night or whatever. And, I mean, I know that's a little loose to say, but, you haven't followed. Somebody's witnessing, hey, he's over here in this hotel. Somebody goes to, hey, Alan, he's over here. And then the guys go get him. You see it on, you see it if you pay attention to like mob hits and stuff like that.
True.
Hey,
True. I'm not saying that Alan didn't have the ability to have had that happen. But to me, I can't make it make sense why it would be better for him, because at this point in time, he had already scripted the business model to where he was this fox in the woods. He was able to then formulate everything to where he would be the cash cow off of Sam Cooke's catalog. So already he's now getting this money. So he may hear that Sam's going to push back. Great, dude, go ahead. It doesn't then behoove him more for Sam to be dead. If anything, they have litigation, and then, okay, Sam reclaims some of his rights to his stuff, and then Alan's still making money off of him. But when Sam's dead, I guess he's still receiving royalties, but nothing like what his potential would be. So if Alan being such a good businessman, I would think, unless there's other strife going on, it doesn't really behoove him to kill him. Even if Sam wants to push back and say, no, dude, I want the rights to my catalog. First of all, Alan probably had a leg to stand on, even if it was illegal what he did, by saying, sorry, man, big wig at the record agency. Sorry, dude, this is what you signed. This is what we've got. Right. So Sam probably would have had a tough time pushing back, but even if he did, they could have articulated some deal to where Alan still has the potential earnings of Sam Cooke, whereas once he's dead, you only have royalties, and that's as far as that's going. So that's where in my brain, unless there was other stuff that we don't know about going on, it didn't really behoove Alan from RCA to kill him, like, or have him murdered. And I think that I do think it could be some weird, giant, shady thing. But I also think it's real tough for people to swallow the idea that this super successful, charismatic, wonderful singer, we listen to him all the time. Like, he's amazing, right? Like, and it was during this time of pivot, and like big things were happening in the country. And it just sounds shitty, honestly, that like his life could end in a third-rate motel.
Right.
Low-rate rendezvous, right, Sammy Kershaw? So like it's just like, like you don't really want to think that the buck stops there. Now, my only then on the medical piece of it, I think it easily could stop there. I think she could have tried to hustle him. Old girl was in on it. I think that easily could have been what happened. I'm not even saying he forced himself upon her at all. Like, I think she could have tried to run his pockets. He gets pissed. Old girl shoots him. They're in cahoots. It's done. I think that's actually pretty easy to wrap up with a bow and call it a day. Now, without being able to physically see his wounds and his body, old girl could have beat him, but she only beat him so much too at the end of the day, right? If he's that enraged that he's driving around naked and running, my point is, like, he's like an elephant, right? Like, he's seeing red. Like, he's just full, like, no stops. So in that sense, I don't know how his hands got, if they were as mangled as people said, or is this just hearsay from his friends where it was like, oh, the medical examiner covered it up too. Like, well, okay, it gets tough to get out there, right? Like, all these wagon wheels of cover-ups. That's not that easy. So who's this cover? And then who's he covering up for? These madams and hookers? Like, that doesn't really fit the narrative either. So without seeing his body, that's the only part that makes me just question that it went down the way it did. Outside of that, I think it easily could be. So
do we know if and when the actual statement of the hotel owner was released about beating with a broom and all that? Because if
date
family,
of release?
Because if family is told,
no, they've continued this for years, though.
Oh, I mean, like the minute it happens, and then they're doing their investigation, and then next of kin is notified, hey, Sam Cooke has been shot and killed, which is probably how they said it.
It was, yeah. So, sure.
But then when the family sees him,
they don't know that. Yes.
Yeah, they may not know. Oh, he was also hit.
So what happened is, you're exactly right in that questioning.
Yeah, they did call for another autopsy, didn't they?
Yeah. So after Lisa Boyer and Bertha Franklin take the stand to testify as witnesses and then as the self-defense killing, like what happened, that's when Bertha, of course, tells, like, no, like she tells it again, like, he came at me, I hit him, I bit him, I whatever. So the family, friends, whatever. Now, when Etta James first said her thing, not necessarily when she first sees him, but when, like, so that's pretty soon after that this testimony takes place. And at that point, it's out in the public. But then even past that, and then for years, because I think Muhammad Ali was famous for saying, had it been Elvis Presley or a member of the Beatles, they'd still be investigating and all this. Now, granted, like, love him or not, he did like to stir a pot. Like, he liked to be present and, like, in the public's eye. And,
I'm sorry. Let me clear up. Because you had played that quote earlier, and he said the FBI would be involved.
The FBI would be involved.
So I do want to say the FBI would normally not be involved in a homicide in Los Angeles.
There's no reason.
The only way they start getting involved is...
Well, and it's semantics. I think what he's saying is that this would be looked into further, and people would be knocking down doors to try to figure it out. But, like, maybe, but, like... everything is that I listen to becomes like it was a cover up by LAPD. But at the end of the day, the people who walk scot-free are like the Asian female prostitute, the black female, whatever. And so when they're like, oh, but the LAPD was racist and involved with the mob, I'm not saying that was not true. I'm just saying that, like, so then how are they going to let these chicks go clear and, free and clear? Like, it just makes more sense that they were just kind of running a scam. And it's really sad that this giant figure falls at these hands. But again, like I said, the only thing that hangs me up a little bit is I would like to see his body and see if his hands were the way they described them or not. Like, I think Muhammad Ali actually would be a great one to say that, because he knows what hands look like when you've been fighting, is that, I don't know. And we don't have those answers because we don't have those photos.
Yeah. I mean, to me, just and I respect your point of view, but to me, just with everything going on with Alan Klein, with everything going on with the civil rights movement, and they investigated, the FBI investigated, they had a track history on MLK, and Malcolm X for that matter, and everybody involved, heavily involved in that whole movement, especially when Muhammad Ali went from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali. They watch him, Of course, J. Edgar Hoover was a Fruit Loop anyway, but wasn't he still director at that time? I think.
I would believe so. Yes.
So my thing was, it's not with Alan Klein being involved, and the other thing was that I think he had enough knowledge of the business. He had enough power behind him, because he was supporting other singers like Etta James, James Brown, these other singers that were up and coming. He was reaching back and pulling people up. So I think he had enough support behind him that it felt like a threat to Alan Klein. And all he's got to do is just go to another studio or open his own. Okay, well, cool. You can keep that catalog. I'm gonna go over here and write some more music. I'm gonna have a whole complete another catalog, and you ain't gonna have anything to do with it. So it was a threat, Alan Klein won't have that control over him anymore, because I'm gonna go over here and do my own thing now. So I think,
but he doesn't have control over him if he's dead. Like, he's not going to keep getting money off of him if he's dead either. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you have to keep getting your brain back there. Like, okay, then if he's dead, what? Now I potentially am on the hook for murder charges, and I'm not gotten any of his Sam Cooke's potential earnings so far outweigh royalties from at the time what he had existing, that right. I bet this is just like fun discourse, Bosco. Obviously, I don't know what happened, but you know what I mean? I have no idea what happened there. But like in my brain, that's where I keep going back to, but it doesn't make sense. Like, Alan was already so big, such a big name, raking in so much money. Does he want to add like potential, like a murder scheme on top of this to keep just Sam Cooke? You know what I mean? Like, because then he's already got it. Like, he's already got the verbiage in the contract now where he's owning all of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so he's already getting that money. He's getting that notoriety, or, already had it. And so I don't know. This one is not one, and maybe I haven't looked into it long enough. It's not one where I feel like there's like this big overarching, like, weird cover up and I mean, who knows? Look, nothing surprises me.
And that's one of the main reasons why I wanted to. That's one of the main reasons why I wanted to bring this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I do want to say, I think there was some statements about people at the hotel that didn't hear gunshots or didn't hear anything, and I could be wrong about that, but I think initially that was what was said. Well, we're also talking about a hotel where
people don't want to be there.
Are getting turned.
Yeah, people don't want to talk about being there.
They don't want their name involved in police records. Mm-hmm. So they're going to say things like, I didn't hear anything. I didn't see anything. I was asleep. So then if you go off of that and that like becomes the word,
I don't see nothing.
Go, well, it must have happened somewhere else. They never heard gunshots. But I just wanted to kind of clarify that, because sometimes when people are listening and they assume, this is like the average citizen would say, I heard 3 gunshots, or I heard yelling and screaming and banging on the door. And sadly, you watch surveillance video and you go, hey, there were 12 people that witnessed that shooting. And you track them down. There's the same 12 people. Like, no, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see anything.
I was asleep.
I didn't hear anything. Yeah.
I mean, where is it Hacienda? Is that close to South Central area? Was that area that rough back then?
Okay, first of all, Bosco, you know exactly where we live, and don't even pretend to think that we know about different suburbs in LA.
No. I know people from that, that came from that part of the country.
So I will say this: everything that I've heard is that going in the direction, it was about a half an hour outside of any direction they would normally go, and it would put you in a more seedy part of town, like a part of town that otherwise you wouldn't be spending much time in, for a Sam Cooke, right? So that's my understanding of the area. It's off of Cahuenga. Do you know how I remember that? Okay, if you're new to Night Shift, we're in the portion of the show where it's just, you can turn it off if you want. Thank you for listening. Keep listening if you'd like, but we're just going to kind of chit chat. But do you remember It's one of the early on YouTube, like extraordinary videos. In fact, I think I might have to put it on as soon as the show's over. We have old Greg. If you remember old Greg from YouTube, we're taking it back 20 years. Like when YouTube first kind of became something that everybody was familiar with and people had funny videos to share. It was old Greg. And then we had Tracy, and Tracy was going to meet Peter at the park. Bosco, if you've not seen it, I would suggest that as soon as we wrap it up, you're just going to go on YouTube and you're going to type in Tracy Peter at the park. And she is driving down the road. It's a woman filming herself driving down the road, again, probably 20 years ago. And she's saying, I'm at the corner of Cahuenga. And like, that's the road we're talking about.
Okay.
And I can quote every word that she says, all the movements, all of it, because it is the best. But so that's my only knowledge of Cahuenga, but that was the intersection in the road. So I guess they took the 110 and they get down there somewhere near Cahuenga. But yes, my understanding is that it was not a great part of town. Pretty across the board, people said that, it seems.
Let's see.
Okay, so we got Heaven in the chats. Hey sis, missed you. So she's saying her dad lived in SoCal in the late 60s and 70s, and there were definitely bad parts that you wouldn't want to go to. Hey Heaven, did you ever watch Tracy and Peter at the Park? On YouTube, please tell me you have.
There's an updated picture of that. I'm actually on another page looking at the Hacienda. Just I don't know, for some reason I wanted to look at it myself. But yeah,
this is the $3 a night sign there, Motel Hacienda.
Ooh, $1.
Motel Hacienda.
I don't know,
yes,
man. I mean,
Heaven. It's old, and I think we learned later that it was a bit. But when it was first, like when she first put it out, we didn't understand like it was a bit. And then saying that if it was a bit, then it's even better now because you realize she was so far like ahead of her time. So, yeah, definitely shady. Let's see what else we got. This is a picture at court. So I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's birth. No, gosh, that almost looks like
Lisa. That's Lisa.
That's Lisa testifying.
Yeah. But see how quick they did, and that's another thing I was going to go back to. Forgot to say that earlier. Was how quick they did.
Hey, so now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, what was this? What is this? This is a hearing, though. It wasn't a trial, right? She was never charged?
No, I don't think they were charged. I think that this was just like a hearing on literally the witness statements, self-defense. Okay. Yeah.
Because that's what I was trying to figure out. Was like,
I keep saying testimony, but it wasn't like a hearing. Like she wasn't charged with manslaughter or something like that, as far as I know.
But it does look like some kind of something.
It looks like Perry Mason. Who's this guy up here? Who's the stenographer? Or they're not stenographer.
Yeah, right.
And that is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Like, this looks just like if you were in. I mean, there's three dudes in the background.
He looks like Will Ferrell's uncle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like she's doing hand puppets at the stand.
Yeah.
She's trying to do shadow puppets.
This is a dog.
Yeah.
But as quick as they did the original autopsy, and then quickly the whole thing was, it just didn't. To me, it didn't add up. They this is kind of half-assed. Did the autopsy, said whatever, and it was like. And everything going on with Alan Klein, to me, I can't help but feel, I guess, in the back of my mind, it's like something else happened. Kind of like when I covered Jimi Hendrix, and then I talked about his life and how he, and what kicked my interest about that was Stevie Ray Vaughan was in an interview, and they compared him to Jimmy, and then he was like, Stevie was like, well, they took care of him, and he just kind of stopped. Like, he was like, that's all I'm gonna say. And it was like, oh, so there's something else to Jimmy's murder or Jimmy's death. But yeah, I mean, his bruising and that bad of a beating.
Here's the deal, though.
With a broomstick, though. Come on.
I know, but we don't have but we don't have it, right? So we don't have the photos. We don't have what his friends said, but we don't have the evidence to show. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but without knowing that, I'm just saying that without seeing that, oh gosh, his wounds are not consistent at all with what she said. And that could be the fact. I mean, obviously we run across cases like that all the time. The difference is though, with the time, unfortunately, in those years, we don't have like all of this evidence and all of these photos and all of these things. And so I'm sure that that's probably the frustration with the people who think that it wasn't investigated enough. I mean, it was for what they said, because we have 3 witnesses in 3 separate locations who back each other's stories up independently. Now, granted, they could have all had that story ahead of time. Like, of course, they could all be, those women could be in the wrong. And I'm not saying that they're not, but without it being something larger, it could be just that. Like, without it being something larger, we don't know that he didn't stumble going downstairs trying to chase after her, right? Like, because all we have is their story. So he could have banged on a couple of doors and busted those knuckles up trying to get a hold of her, right? Like, after she did him wrong, meaning like after she hustled him, right? So I don't know. It's, who knows?
They did show there's not a picture of, there was a picture of him at the scene whenever and I can't find it on here. So there was a picture.
It's tough to find. There's a picture of him
slumped down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it just didn't make sense. Like I said, I mean.
Because she said, if what she's saying is true, and we don't know this, but that she shot him. He says, "Lady, you shot me." He got up and like charged her again, in which case that's when she says, like, basically the fight ensued, which would be really the only way I can see her overpowering him in that sense, because he's already injured, right? He's already got a shot through the heart. John Bon Jovi, be quiet. And so he like is still able to come at her, right? But he's decompensating now. Like, he's not going to be able to continue the fight. And if she is fighting for her life, or, I mean, it both could be true. She could be involved with the hustle, with the prostitute. They scam him, whatever. It doesn't work out great. And he comes after her. And then now she legitimately is in self-defense. But she can't say, oh, this was all part of our plan. Just not the murder, right? Like, so all of those things could be true.
Well, like I said, it's a pretty interesting story. And Tyler. But, to me, it's an interesting story. We sit here and
I mean, it's worth Monday talking about for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I will stress again, if you're not familiar with Sam Cooke, play it tonight, play it tomorrow.
Now, did you grow up listening to it, Bosco?
Oh yeah, I will forever, and I will forever credit my mom's sister, my aunt. We rode around when we were kids, and she would play. There was an oldie station in Macon, and it's not even there anymore. They converted to country music or country anyway. So, and it was just oldies all the time, dude. You know how many hours? And I think I got burned out by the Beatles by the time I was 10. But anyway, so we would listen.
I can't stand
them. We agree. I think we've discussed that before. But I would grow up listening to these oldies, man. And I think that's why my love it still kind of carries on for that music today. I didn't get interested in the pop music that everybody else did, and I didn't get into the mainstream. I mean, the grunge and alternative rock came along in the early 90s, and it just kind of I still love listening to that, but my heart and soul is right there in soul music and blues, and that's obviously I look at other podcasts and nobody's out here talking about it, so that's why I started mine, and nobody's talking about these random, because when's the last time you really thought? I mean, honestly, when's the last time you really even thought? General public really even thought about Sam Cooke?
Oh, we do, but I don't know.
But y'all are different.
But you're right.
You're right.
And I was going to say the funny thing, man, I got my mess. But the funny thing is, when you're talking about being a little kid, and we talk constantly. So, but I was in like second grade, and thought that like the current music, I thought everybody else was listening to the Drifters and Benny King and Sam Cooke and Otis Redding, you know, because that's like constantly what my dad was playing. And then like when we would go see him, my brother and I, and then, or my mom. So I was always thinking like that was current music until probably about third grade. And then it started kind of dawning on me like, oh, like this is old music. Back then it was, you know. It'd be like the equivalent now of, I guess, listening to a song from like 2005. I mean, really.
I mean, and
he's trying to tell his age without telling it.
But I thought I would get picked on. You know, I'm sitting here listening to, you know, and of course I'm a skinny little white kid in South Macon, Georgia.
Big Bo, aren't you?
Yeah, right. Bell Biv. Good God. Wow. What was that 92?
Oh, just ignore me. Just you'll learn like Ryan does. Just keep talking.
But you know, I do the same thing.
I don't.
But for me, it was, you know, I listened to a little bit of country, and I thank my daddy for that because, you know, just how that's the music he was listening to. But I would listen. I mean, just that James Brown, like you said, Otis Redding, you know, all this B.B. King. You know, and then I started learning how to play guitar and find my own voice. And that was just, for me, that's when it really took off. You know, then I got onto the Allman Brothers Band at some point, and I learned everything I could absorb about them. And I still haven't done an Allman Brothers Band episode yet, but
oh, good.
But yeah,
you should.
Hours and hours. I'm
really glad that you I like the idea of the automotive thing, Bosco. Like now we're just talking like we're not on a podcast at all. Forget it. So personally, hey, I do like the idea that you had for automotive stuff because I know that it like interests you so much, but I know music does too. And I think it's just a broader grab with that. Like I think it's difficult to have the automotive portion unless like you can just find a super like, I don't know, like niche, like really hit home with those. I don't know. I think with music, you can span all like you do. And I think that that's going to reach, you know, more people. And I don't know. I think everybody can relate. Right. So,
speaking of the automotive thing, I guess I'll announce it here. I think I announced it on before, but I tell y'all, my oldest son and I are working on a that's where he wants to do an automotive podcast.
Okay, good. Well, then you guys will together be able to like go back and forth, right?
Yeah, and he knows about music. Like I mean, I brought him up on this stuff too, so he knows. But and he's a mechanic. He works for the same company that I work for now, and and even with the hat. So, it's called Savage Technicians, and we're going to really break it down to blue collar. Just this is what we do every day. This is the gripes that we have in the automotive and diesel industry, and these are the buttholes that we used to work for, and you know, this is the bonehead stuff we did. So we're going to break it down and kind of reach out to our mechanic buddies, and hopefully, because people get nervous about here on a mic and then staring at a camera, and they just kind of, you know, Ricky Bobby, I don't know what to do with my hands. So, but
really, I don't either. I'm literally tangled up.
It took me a little while to get comfortable behind here. If you go back and listen to the earlier episodes, I was like, but now I'm like, so
you're on it, man. You're on it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, listen,
I try, man. I hope I entertain everybody really with my music facts. And
you do. And you know what, Bosco, I'll be honest. What I love about hearing you is that you're always upbeat and you're always telling everybody like, good morning, have a great day. And you're always very encouraging. And I think that there's just, you know, I don't want to say there's not enough of that because I think people are a lot better than other people give people credit for, but it's always good. And that's a good thing. And I think that we can never get enough of that. So I think that that's part of what has continued, I would say, like our friendship and our, you know, getting closer with each other and texting and talking. And then here we are. But like, I do feel like I made a joke about brother from right earlier on, but like, I really do feel like we know you well. And you're positive, and that's wonderful. And that's what everybody needs. So yes, you have escalated with your podcast skills. Who am I to say? I can't even get a headphone on. But in saying that, you know,
these. See that?
Well, we see. So that's the
Bluetooth,
thing. We don't
right,
have to use them when it's just us. So we never do. And so, but it's been so long since we've had a guest. So having you on, then we realized last minute we need headphones.
But you know, like with these, even when I'm recording by myself, and I did have a co-host, and y'all know, brother Turtle is still mending very well. He just stepped away from the podcasting thing, so but he didn't heal up. I was over there helping him install a CB radio on his Jeep yesterday. But
breaker 19.
Yeah. But you know, I think too, what helps me a lot is, you know, whenever I'm on here by myself, I know y'all may not be listening at that very moment, but y'all will hear it at some point.
Yeah.
So I'm talking to y'all, you know, obviously Tyler's always in there, and you know, my favorite Canadian.
Yeah. And he's our only Canadian, Tyler.
I have another Canadian that listens. So there's two.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it just, for me, just to share this knowledge and to share the passion of this music that I really love and I learned. And I don't play guitar much anymore. I think because of my hands damage and all that, it's kind of hard to, but I still pick it up every once in a while and just get to until I'm tired.
Okay, one last question before we head out. If you were to pick up the guitar right now, and if I said just play one thing that you'd like to play, what, I'm not asking you to do it, but what would it be?
I would probably go. That was difficult to play. The very first one I learned to play was actually the very first one that Greg Allman wrote and kept, and it's Melissa.
Melissa, yes, okay.
Yeah. That was honestly, I learned that accidentally, because I was sitting there, and what I do is I put in my earbuds, and I'm listening to them play, so I start playing by ear, following what they're doing. And I mean, is it exactly right every single time? No, but you know,
I can't play guitar, so it's all great to me.
But that was Greg's song that he wrote and kept, and also that was Dwayne's, his brother's song, most favorite song. You know, play that song about that girl. You know, is what Dwayne would tell Greg, and you know, he just, you know, just one of the very first ones
great.
I love. You know.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, I grew up playing piano some, but I don't, that's it. And that would be rusty now, but I definitely don't play guitar. I always wanted to play guitar.
I can't play anything. I love to play the drums. I tried playing guitar one time. Next door neighbor was the guy I've talked about before, the Phenom, could play by ear. He went to a Rat concert when they opened up for like Queensryche. Whatever it was, 1980 something, came back and knocked out like 2 songs that nobody had heard. So we were just like, oh my gosh. But I tried one little guitar lesson with him, and I hated the feeling.
Yes.
I didn't like the feeling of the chords. I always wanted to play drums, but didn't have a drum set. So
I mean, y'all
I never play drums either. I play drums in every bar in downtown Nashville, but I've never formally been trained. Basically, I have said that.
Y'all are right there. Y'all are right there in Marshall Tucker's territory. I can't, you know, y'all didn't get into some Marshall Tucker band.
Yeah, I like Marshall Tucker.
Well, we listen to it like once every week.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we listen to everything. We listen to everything all the time. Like there's never not music playing. Yeah.
It just depends on my mood. I could go from alternative grunge to, you know, to the deep. One of my most favorite. It's an old. Actually, it was a song written in the 80s that the Allman Brothers Band covered that to me made it better, but that sounds a little biased. It's there's a singer from Statesboro, Georgia, and I'll have to cover him. I got a list of, you know, artists that I'm going to cover.
Didn't Brian come out of Statesboro, but in that, didn't he?
Who?
I think Brian came out of Statesboro. Was he Athens?
No, America's area.
I actually don't care, but I just wondered. I thought it was somewhere around there.
His old list having himself.
Yep.
But Blind Willie McTell or Blind Willie McTeer, as he was, he was a phenomenal. He what I understand, he was better than Robert Johnson was. Yeah. And Bob Dylan wrote a song about him, and it's a song called Blind Willie McTell, and it's just, and I think the band, the band,
yeah.
What's the name of the band? The band. But they covered that song as well, Blind Willie McTell. It's very, and they still have Blind Willie McTell days down here in Statesboro, Georgia, and it's a big blues festival, and it's awesome.
You enjoy that. Hey, I'm not going to Blind Willie McTell. However, do you know who's coming to South Carolina in May?
Who?
King.
Marcus King?
No, God, no. The King. King. King George. George Strait's coming.
Oh. Sorry. I mean, I heard King. I was thinking Marcus King. And you don't like Marcus King?
He's fine, but not in comparison to George Strait. Get on out of here.
True. Yeah, I mean, if you just said country music, then yeah. I was on a blues tangent there for a minute. My mind was somewhere else. Marcus King can throw it down.
Oh my gosh. Stop with that. I was talking about George Strait.
I like George Strait. I don't think there's a song that George Strait's done that I don't like.
You're exactly right.
Mm-hmm. That's the right answer.
So, that is the right answer.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't like George Strait, then I ain't gonna cuss on here. Never mind. Kiss my behind.
Kiss my behind. Well, on that note, our lovely listeners. Again, if you guys need anything, you can always follow us at Andrea Uplate on Instagram. You can follow Brian at Brian Sanders Disruptors on Instagram. You can follow him on YouTube at The Disruptors with Brian Sanders. You can find him on his website at
The Disruptors with Brian Sanders.
That one too, .com. And obviously you can always follow our good friend Bosco at Forever Road Podcast on Instagram or YouTube. He puts a lot of daily shorts up, which are kind of fun to see. So we love you guys, and thank you for tuning in. And TikTok, you are right about that. Hey, yes. Brian, would you like to tell these people good night?
Good night, everybody.
That was so nice of you. All right. Hey, y'all. Bosco, hang on. We'll meet up with you in a sec. And everybody else, we love being back. And until next week, we will see y'all next Tuesday. Good night, y'all.
Love you.